What is up, all you GBA type fans? This is Tom, and I'm going to be bringing you probably the same video that other coaches have been putting up on their channel, and it's going to be our draft analysis for our own, personal teams. The coaches do this every year. This is actually I'm excited to do this again. It has been a long while since I've actually drafted a good team. I would not call my CCL team good, nor would I call it the MPL team that I got after the collapse of Season 3 good. So that's a plus. But this team that I'll go dive into in a second, or that you saw on the live draft stream, I'm pretty confident in. As I expand, I'll explain why I picked that specific mon, or perhaps how it's going to fit in my overall play style, or even just what is appealing about that mon. But hopefully that you guys get more of an in-depth idea as to why I drafted what I did, and maybe you get an understanding as to how I'm going to play or what to expect this season. So without further ado, let's look at our first pick in the draft. So first off, I picked up Sylveon. Now, Sylveon was not necessarily my first choice. My first choice was Kieran Black. That should not be a surprise to a lot of people, but Kieran Black is certainly it's my favorite mon in competitive format, especially in the GBA. I just like using it. I love how strong and deadly it is. I love using it. That's pretty much the bottom line. But unfortunately, Nick stole it from me because he's a bastard, and he's a bastard. So I settled for Sylveon. Now, Sylveon isn't necessarily a poor choice. By no means is it a poor choice, nor should it be in UU, but that's Showdown talk, and that's not meant for this channel. But Sylveon, overall, is going to be a very solid aspect of my team. Spadef wall, solid, offensive option, an offensive tank, if you will. A cleric, certainly. Pretty much all the things that kind of went into my mind when it came to picking Sylveon specifically. I know I wanted a fairy type. I didn't necessarily like Clefable. I know it's good. I know it's fat. It's probably the best fairy in this format, but I had Clefable back in Season 3 before the collapse, but there's a certain type of team that you made without the points system. So in saying that, it's Clefable didn't quite appeal to me. I know I could have picked it up right then and there. Maybe my team would have been a little fatter. Probably would have been a little bit better off, but I'm okay with Sylveon. Sylveon, I can certainly put a specs on. I can scarf it. I can do whatever I need to do. And it certainly appeals as a wall some weeks when I have a lot of offensive thoughts in mind. But that's why I picked Sylveon, and I'm happy with it. I knew from here I was going to then kind of back it up with speed. So without further ado, going to my second choice, since I did have the wheel, I went 16, 17, and then 32, 33, so on and so forth. But second off, I picked up Starmie. Now, the thing with Starmie is, without me getting too fancy with how I'm going to say this, it's reliable to me. Starmie was the shining star. Haha, shining star. It was my top player in Season 1, Season 2. I got really comfortable using it. I really enjoyed the fact that it had such fantastic stabs. It was a good rapid spinner. So many offensive options and recover. If it's fast, some people might consider it, average in terms of its stats. But I'm not going to use it as a wall unless I'm going to use it as the reflect type set. And even in that case, it's going to be max HP, and it's going to be there to serve a purpose. I don't see Starmie being a specific wall that I'm going to use week to week, but I certainly don't think it's going to not shine on my team. I love how fast it is. I love all the options I have. Life Orb Analytic is awesome, and I could rapid spin. I can do so many things with Starmie. I went with this purely out of, comfortability, because I couldn't get Kieran Black. And I'm not going to regret it whatsoever. I know Starmie is probably going to be a key component in building every week. And I know a lot of coaches aren't going to be they aren't going to nap on Starmie because it's base 115 speed. But I certainly know that they're going to have to prepare adequately for it, because it's not going to be the easiest Pokemon to guess every week. I can win Life Orb, choice it, whatever. But it's certainly going to be a powerhouse if I get to use it correctly, which I'm pretty confident that I will. So it's not really much concern there. So Starmie and Sylveon, great two first picks. Now, in the draft, or when we were drafting, a lot of the coaches were saying that your third pick really locks up your draft as a whole. Like, your draft potential, the first two picks, really solid, especially for my purposes. Your third pick kind of locks up the first two, and your fourth one is just a supplement to that third pick. That sounds really stupid now that I said it out loud, but I say that because I'm looking, and I had this plan ever since I picked up Starmie. I'm like, crap, I need something that takes on both of Sylveon's weaknesses. I need something that's fast with Taunt, and I need something that can take on, a fair chunk of Starmie's weaknesses. So, without, being a sexy pick, I went with Cobalion. Cobalion is certainly something that I'm not used to using it, but I'm certainly not afraid to use it, if that makes sense. Cobalion, in its own right, is a solid addition. It's, again, trying to build speed. I've noticed in my drafts that I lack, like, one of two things. First off, either I lack a sense of, like I said just now, speed, where my fastest thing is, like, maybe base 100. I know in the CCL I have one base 115 mon, and then I have base 100, so there's a huge gap. And if it's not that, it's Taunter. I've noticed that I have been getting absolutely crippled and embarrassed by setup sweepers. So giving me things like Cobalion, and then a few picks later, another fast Taunter. Two fast Taunters at that. It just gives me this capability of potentially shutting down problems, whether it's a wall, whether that's going to try and T-wave me, the fancy yellow magic, or set up hazards on me. Obviously my team, when we get through it, is not going to be the most privy to hazards, but it's not going to stop me from trying to prevent them from getting up. But the point is, Cobalion, I love its typing. I think it does lock up very well with Sylveon and Starmie. Its speed is very appealing. I like that. I could probably use it as a solid defensive option as well. Things like Volt Switch, two very good stabs, Rocks, and Taunt were pretty much my main appeal points, and I've wanted it ever since I picked up Starmie. I was like, crap, is this thing going to last to me for another, like, 30-ish picks? Yeah, that seems about right. Is it going to last me till then? I hope it does. And lo and behold, it did. Now, I did lose out on things in this time, such as Tangrowth and Rotom Heat, both taken by good old Tup. And, I think this thing is a fantastic addition. I'm going to say that about all my picks, but I'm going to use Cobalion, and I'm going to probably enjoy using it for all of its options, and I hope you guys enjoy how I use it as well. So, my next pick, and something that I'm sure nobody really expected to get down all the way to the 4th round, Mamoswine. Now, a lot of people I have talked to have said that Mamoswine is essentially, it's such a killer in this format. There are so few checks to Mamoswine, even when you're playing on, the Showdown ladder. But it's never the most prolific sweeper. Now, I say that because, it's not going to be your top 10 killer. But it's not something to sleep on either. It has so many options with your priority Ice Shard, your Icicle Crash, Earthquake, I can put Knockoff on it. I could even go Freeze Dry, right, so. And I can Get Rocks, so I have that's 2 months right there that I could put up rocks, hazards with, and Mamoswine, in its nature, is going to probably be a solid killer just throughout the entire season. Yeah, Ice type is not the best typing, but it's not necessarily going to hinder its ability to be an offensive threat every single week. Like I said, did not expect this thing to get down to me in round 4. After I pick Cobalion, I'm thinking like, oh, I can go with this, or I can go with something else. Kind of thought I could, pull the trigger and get my Mega right here, but I was like, nah, I could wait on that because I don't think Mega Aerodactyl is going to be the best, or not the best, but it's going to be the most sought after Mega, mostly because I haven't really seen it, be like a powerhouse. I'll get to that in a minute, but Mamoswine, looking at everything, and I'm seeing, oh yeah, Mamoswine's still available, and then I think to myself, holy crap, Mamoswine's still available. Hey, fuck it, Mamoswine, pick a Mamoswine, and people, whether it was the draft, the live draft, or it was the coach, like, wow, that cannot believe that fell that far. So I'm certainly not sad that I got to pick up Mamoswine. Rock weakness, but I think with Starmie, and then looking later in the draft how I can kind of get rid of rocks, I'm not worried whatsoever. Mamoswine is certainly something I'm not afraid of using or attempting to get a very solid grasp on how good it could really be, or it really is in this format. So Next up, I got 2 walls. Now, these 2 walls I stole from Tup, and I'm not gonna lie, I genned a lot of Tup's Mons week after week, so it's not necessarily a shocker that I picked these 2, and I'm gonna get a solid familiarity with one of them, because the other one I've used season in and season out through, so many different seasons. Arcanine. Woofles. This thing already has a nickname. It's Woofles. Woffles. Yeah, it's an adorable nickname, and if you think it's stupid, I hate you. And so, Arcanine. Over-reliable. Again, this thing I'm also very comfortable with. Not gonna, change my ways with Arcanine. It's a solid defensive wall. It's a, offensive type pivot. It's a kind of sort of revenge killer if I want it to be, with E-speed. And, the Morning Sun, instant recovery, intimidate. I've had a very good run at shutting down offensive threats with Arcanine. Again, another rock weakness, but that's okay. Arcanine can handle its own, especially with how I use it. I've seen coaches, season in, season out. In season 4 with Steve letting it die for no fucking reason, and then Tup not necessarily using it to its full potential. Like he would run, 4 attacking moves with like leftovers, or he would run Morning Sun and then, not really give it its best chance to live. I'm not knocking how they played. It's just Arcanine, I think, breeds a certain type of play style with it. It needs to, if you're going to commit it as a wall, commit it as a wall. Ensure that it doesn't get its leftovers knocked off, or ensure that your intimidates are effective when they need to be, and not just thrown out there because I need to intimidate something. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but there's a certain type of niche when it comes to Arcanine's effectivity in this league. Now, I paired that up with a mon that also, I didn't really realize until the draft, but Jellicent also pads very nicely with Mamoswine. It takes on both of its its pure weaknesses being fighting. I think mainly fighting, and even things like steel moves. So Bullet Punch, I could take that on very well. And Jellicent, now it may not be the most sexy bulky water. It's certainly an effective one. Its special defensive stat and its HP match very well with Arcanine. This. I don't expect these 2 to be, not meant for my team a few weeks. Maybe I have 2 water types, so what? We've seen teams that had quad weaknesses galore in Mulvone's Season 4 team do fantastically. As an analyst, you look at these teams and you go, oh, wow, this team has this problem. It has redundancies in this typing. And then it goes, it has too many, non-appealing weaknesses to one specific move, and only has 3 mons to take on that typing. You could look at that, but you gotta remember the coach who's using it. It could be a problem on paper, but in practicality, we saw good teams suck and bad teams win championships. So I say that because, my team, maybe it's not the most sexy team, maybe it's not the most powerhouse team, it's an effective team, and I don't see it failing me. So, Jellicent, I love its options. Curse Body and Water Absorber are going to be used almost every week. I'm not going to use Damp, so let's be honest here. And it covers up other issues that my team might have, but I'm certain that Jellicent's going to be a fantastic bulky water, and I could even pair it up with Starmie, and I could be okay with it. Obviously I'm not going to... They both share weaknesses, but I could bring Jellicent and Starmie and not feel bad because I have other things that can, pad those weaknesses or pad an issue that those 2 may not be able to handle on their own. So, next up, I'm going to go into my next pick, which was, in fact, Noivern. Now, not the most appealing dragon. I think at this point, a lot of the dragons were either picked or they cost way too fucking much. So I wasn't going to pick anything like Dragonite or Salamence. And Noivern, again, this kind of falls back into my whole thing with Cobalion. Fast Taunter, very appealing. Now, Noivern, so we've mostly seen it be used on Mulvone's team when he was involved in the league. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that Noivern was never a showcased mon. We saw it U-turn, we saw it Frisk, and that's pretty much a very solid appeal that I got out of Noivern. Frisk plus U-turn, Frisk plus Roost or Taunt, Super Fang even. Like, my big appeal is Super Fang and then getting out, or Super Fang and then like picking off a bulky mon with some other move, because Noivern in its own is not necessarily a killer. Like, Noivern's never going to be a high tier dragon because it doesn't have those prolific offensive stats that's going to allow it to, just clip off mon after mon. Like, things like your Salamence. That thing can come in and absolutely nuke whatever it wants, because it's Salamence. Like, it's going to pick something off, get that +1 attack with Moxie, or D-Dance in your face, you try and status it against the Lomberry. But with Noivern, I don't know what it is, but I could feel this being very effective for me in general. Whether I lead with it, I taunt something to shut down rocks, or I perhaps go for Super Fang, mid-match, and even if Noivern dies in the process, taking something that has a lot of HP, taking a wall, taking something like Chansey, which I can't stand, and is on Dan's team, I'm going to be able to clip things in half and make them a lot more manageable, and that is certainly important to me. Also, it has the annoying moves like Hurricane, and then it has a wide variety because it is a dragon type, so I could run, the dragon stabs, I could run flamethrower, stuff like that. So I see Noivern also being very effective, and I can't wait to use it. And base 123 speed is nothing to shake at, but I'm going to pair that up right with my Mega pick, which is going to be Mega Aerodactyl. Now, the thing with Mega Aerodactyl is I did kind of pull the plug a little bit early with Aerodactyl. So I was, maybe terrified is the word, but I was so scared that people were going to pick Mega Aerodactyl. I think at this point in the draft, Lars, Geo, and George. Yeah, I think that's correct. They hadn't picked their Megas yet. And in my mind, I'm going, crap, I want Mega Aerodactyl. Should I pick it now? Yeah, I'll pick it now. And I could have waited, and I probably could have got a better wall for it. But the thing is with Mega Aerodactyl, it's so appealing, and I haven't necessarily seen it be an asset in other leagues, but I know it's not going to be some slouch that's not going to showcase how good it really is. Base 150 speed, I'm going to outspeed almost everything unless it's Scarfed, and I speed tie with Mega Manetric, which that's cool and dandy, but 135 attack, awesome. Tough Claws, it's fast, I love its typing. Again, fast Taunter, Stealth Rocks, I could run Defog if I really want to. I could put, investment in its defenses. It doesn't all need to go into speed. If I need to just check a certain speed tier, assuming it's non-Scarf, that's fine. There's no problem with that. Mega Aerodactyl in its nature is going to be a tough mon for some coaches to handle, other coaches maybe not so much. Like for me, I know I'm going to use it as probably a speed killer, maybe something to clip off certain weakened mons, and definitely even just like a scout, because there's so many things I can do with Mega Aerodactyl. Maybe its two stabs aren't the most reliable, because like I have to run Stone Edge if I want to kill something, or Rock Slide. But then of course Wing Attack and Aerial Ace aren't the most appealing flying moves. But it's not the biggest deal. I could work with that. I could pursue things with a Crunch. Ice Fang is always an option. And I don't know. I love Mega Aerodactyl. I think it's been severely underused in terms of the GBA or just this type of format, and I certainly don't expect it to be, not see success. It's too fast not to, and its stats are just so appealing that I definitely see it being effective overall. Gonna try and speed up a little more right here. So next up, we picked Machamp. Now, Machamp is another fighting type, so some people might be like, oh yeah, well, why'd you pick that? Well, I think at this point in the draft I had a little bit, less in fighting types. I had Mamoswine and Cobalion, but I'm not going to use Cobalion specifically as like a physical sweeper. Maybe I'll go with Machamp. Not many things are going to want to take a Dynamic Punch. That guaranteed confusion is not really the most fun for whatever is going to take that hit. Even some special walls, I can then back it up with things like Heavy Slam and take on fairies, even Bullet Punch, and then just like knock off, Elemental Punches, Earthquakes, whatever I need Machamp to do. I think if I team build correctly, I can go ahead and pick off whatever I need to, or just punch a hole in whatever I want to make, less bulky. Punch something really hard with its multiple fists is the bottom line with Machamp. Again, not the most sexy pick. There were things that I probably could have went for. I know I was bouncing with things like Toxicroak, but I don't. Toxicroak maybe as a free agent. Like, I don't think it's going to be picked up that quickly, but it's certainly there. It's certainly an idea. But, no guard or even Guts some weeks. Its speed is not the most appealing at base 55, but its attack stat, it gives me another option that's physically just demanding. Like, you have to prepare for this team. This offense is probably the best offense I've ever picked up. I've gone with bulky offense before. I've gone with just straight bulky. I've gone with just straight offense. And I think this is a very solid mix so far. Machamp is a fantastic, physical just banger. It punches something and damage is done. Dynamic Punch, if we're going to talk about my luck on like a cartridge, you're probably going to get confused when you go up against me, because unfortunately, well, not for me, but for you, I tend to have better luck on cartridge than I do on Showdown, so hopefully that works out in my favor whenever I get to use Dynamic Punch. But it's certainly going to be fun clicking that button and being like, yeah, something's not going to enjoy this, click it, and something's not going to enjoy it. So that's my reasoning with Machamp. This, maybe it's going to be underwhelming, but maybe not. Maybe my team has a better appeal for Machamp to be more adequately showcased than it has in other seasons. I know we saw Miguel use it, we saw Tup use it last season. Didn't really get its time in the sun, but hey, maybe it'll be a little different on my team. Next up, we have Xatu. Now, this was definitely a weird one, and I will level with anyone who says this wasn't a weird pick. Xatu has its appeal. Yes, my third flying type, but look at what it does. It's a magic bouncer, so if you want to try and get up rocks, even just the pure nature of having Xatu in a team preview is an overall deterrent for teams to not set up rocks. Now, there's no team that's going to just set up rocks willy-nilly, or at least not ensure that Xatu's not coming in. But Xatu, just like Mega Sableye, discredits teams from bringing hazards. Now, this thing does kind of share a weakness with Starmie, so that could be a problem in the future. But Xatu in its own right is, I think, is an effective pick. I want to try and use this and see how effective it could be. Base 95 speed is cool. Its defensive stats are not the most appealing, and neither its HP stat. But, Color Berry can prevent the knockoff from, killing me in one shot. You can U-turn, I can T-Wave. I don't know. Maybe Xatu's going to be effective, maybe not. But it's definitely an experiment, so to say. I'm going to have fun using it, and I hope you guys enjoy, I guess, how I'm going to use it. I don't know. Maybe a scout. Maybe just bounce back rocks. Maybe just, keep teams being fearful and not put up rocks without, or even hazards, status, whatever, without, really considering their options. I don't know. Xatu's a weird one. I understand it's a weird one. You understand it's a weird one. Maybe it'll be dropped later on for something that I can attempt to, buffer up my team's defenses. Whatever. And finally, we're going to go with Luxray. Now, Luxray, again, might be another redundancy, which might not be the most appealing for some people, but I picked it because of the fact that it is another Intimidator, and I like the Volt Switch. Again, another base 120 attacker. Like, I have a lot of attack investment, and a lot of things a lot of physical walls are going to be coming to my matches, which maybe might open the doors for my special attackers, things like Starmie, like Noivern, things like Sylveon. So if a team is looking specifically to handle the raw offensive power that I have on the attacking side, maybe they won't have as much for their special defensive side, so or vice versa for that matter. I think with Luxray, I could intimidate something. I saw Lars used it. Again, this might be a candidate for free agency, but we'll see how it works on my team. I certainly think it's appealing just at a base layer, and I can see it me being kind of efficient with it. Its defensive stats aren't the most appealing, like Zatu's 80 HP, 79 defense, 79 speed def, and slower speed. But its attack is up there. Guts is also an option. Intimidate, probably gonna use it mainly for the Intimidate. But oh man, this team overall, we're gonna look at the picture of it in general. I think it looks good to me. Now, would I like maybe a more solid wall, maybe a grass type? Yeah, but does that mean I'm not going to enjoy using this team? No, I'm going to really enjoy this team for all that it is. I like the fastness. I like the options I have to get rid of hazards. I like the options to set up hazards. I like the familiarity with things like Starmie, Sylveon, and Arcanine. I like the chances I'm taking with things like Mamoswine and Mega Aerodactyl and even Luxray. Like, there's so much that excites me about this team, and I can't wait to showcase it for better or for worse. Do I think I'm going to be the best team this season in the GBA? Not really. I kind of take this more casual, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to try. Like, I have people who I can talk to and team build with. I have great minds around me that I could bounce ideas off with. I have my own mind, which I've been doing this for long enough that I think, yeah, I'm pretty okay at this. I'm not going to say I'm like poke aim status, but I'm not going to say I'm some slouch. Like, I'm excited, guys. And I hope you are too. This is going to be a fun season. The competition is stacked, and I hope to do as good as you guys think I'm going to do. I'm going to put all of my effort into each match. Even if I lose, you saw if you watch any of my CCL matches, you're going to see that there's one thing. I lose, but I always learn something out of it. Or I get destroyed for something or another, and then I adjust, accordingly later on in later matches. That's going to be a common thing for all of my matches. Every week is going to be a 100%. I'm going to give it my all, and people are going to have to bring their A game because I'm bringing mine every week. 110%. I'm never quitting. I'm never going to throw in the towel because I'm losing. This season of the GBA is stacked. If I don't give it my 100% and I don't give you guys a good showing, then I'm just cheating out anyone else who we may have added instead. I'm a returning coach, and I got to prove that I was valuable enough to return. Yeah, I sat in the sidelines. I've watched every flippin' match that, was uploaded week after week, and I think that that's going to help. I've seen a lot of play styles. I've seen a lot of teams do well. I've seen a lot of teams, not really live to their potential. But I think that the potential that I have is there, and I can bring you guys some solid gameplay, and I could certainly at least take the Sharpedos to a very appealing spot. So this season we're going to be running, now this is completely unrelated, 2 hashtags. I'm going to run hashtag enter or welcome to the Shark Tank, and the second one's going to be crunch time. Now I'm going to use them interchangeably. I'll probably talk about it in my week matches. Sorry, long video. And I hope it catches on with you guys. If you see on Twitter or if you watch this video, just tweet at me, welcome to the Shark, hashtag welcome to the Shark Tank, or hashtag crunch time. And with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed. I did ramble a little bit, just use it like a podcast. And hope you guys enjoyed this season of the GBA. I know there's going to be a lot of fantastic coaches, a lot of fantastic battles, and I hope you guys tune to every single one like I did the past 2 seasons. That being said, go Sharpedos. You are not going to be disappointed with my team. And this season is going to be one hell of a ride, guys. So hope you're all buckled in. And with that being said, leave a comment. I'll talk to you guys in the comment section. And hope you all enjoyed. With that, bye.